Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a beautiful day out there. I'm excited for today's topic around innovation dollars from Missile Defense Agency. We're going to get rocking and rolling in just a second. Want to remind you, if you haven't done so already, and I see some of you doing this already, but make sure you put your company name into the chat and your core competency. Use 2 or 3 keywords that tell us what you do. This will let other people in the chat who are here attending today's event be able to network with you. Maybe you see, like I'm seeing Scott Johnson there, right? DevSecOps, cloud, data analytics. I might say, oh, look, they do, I'm assuming that's robotic process automation or something like that, right? And I might reach out to Scott and say, hey, let's take it offline and maybe we can have a quick intro call. So put your company name, core competency in there, and also throughout, make sure you're engaging. Before we get started, I want to give a quick tip for those showing up early and on time. I really appreciate you doing this. When you do, LinkedIn pushes the word out to others. So my tip for you, it's something I said yesterday, and I hope if you're coming back again, you've already done this. But if you want visibility, if you want federal buyers and teammates to find you, make it easy for them. And one of the ways you can do that is to get out there and put your capability statement on LinkedIn. For most of us, we're here on LinkedIn. And so just go into LinkedIn profile, put it into your featured section, or come down to your experience section where it says your company name and the job, et cetera. And you can add your PDF file in there. It allows people to see it and also download it. And federal buyers come into LinkedIn as well. So make sure you do that. It's a quick tip for success for those of you showing up early and on time. Okay, I'm going to get rocking and rolling. I'm going to bring Candace in here in a second, and we're going to start talking. Let me just make sure I got all my ducks in a row. Oh, by the way, one other thing. If you're not connected with me, make sure you reach out, connect with me. Say you saw the training. If you're on YouTube, come over to LinkedIn. This is where you can network with people. YouTube is where you can watch, but inside of LinkedIn is where you can really network with folks. So let me bring Candace on really quick. Hey, Candace, can you hear me?
Hi, I can. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can. Okay,
Great.
perfect. And so we're going to dive right in, folks. If you want to learn more about Candace Wright, and I hope you do, follow up, connect, reach out, and go to MDA and learn more. But today we're going to be talking about small business innovation research, and the research dollars in there. And I like to call it, and I think maybe they do as well, seed funding, if you will, if you think about venture capital terms. But Candace, first, thank you very much for being here. And I want to start off with just a beginner question for me really is, I'm pretty familiar with the Army and DHS and some of these other places I work a lot with, but Missile Defense Agency, I'm a little bit less so. So can you introduce yourself, just say hi to folks, and then give me a little intro of, who is MDA and kind of maybe where do they fit into the DoD world?
Absolutely. So, hi, everybody. I am Candace Wright. I am the program lead for the Missile Defense Agency's SBIR and STTR programs. The Missile Defense Agency is a research and development and acquisition agency that falls under the Department of Defense. Our mission is to develop to develop and deploy a multi-layered defense system to protect our deployed forces, our friends, and our allies from all missile attacks in all phases of flight. I know that's kind of more of a mouthful that folks are probably like, what do you mean all phases of flight? But our mission is amazing. We are the eyes and the ears of the missile defense system, and we have a fantastic program. But I'm going to stop because I don't want to keep briefing you on it because I know you want to ask me some more questions. And I mean, I could keep going here, but
No, it's the fun part. I had fun with Jen from DARPA yesterday. She's like, "Okay, I'll keep it short, but you better have the questions."
it's hard to keep it short when you're like, there's so many great things we do. But no, I mean, we
Yeah.
are a great organization. We are a layered defense system. We help to protect the mainland, which is very important. So.
No, that's perfect. Let's dive in. Really, just going in. We've got 25 minutes, and we're going to push through a lot of stuff related to SBIR. And I think one of the first places I might just start is, what is SBIR? And by the way, I'll talk about STTR another day. Just SBIR, what is that? And maybe generally, and also then more specifically, what is it to MDA?
So I'm not sure how many of you all dialed into the last two sessions. I'm sure that Miss Gina Sims kind of hit this high level too, but SBIR is our Small Business Innovation Research Program. So we are a congressionally mandated program for the Missile Defense Agency as well as others under the Department of Defense that we are considered a tax of the extramural R&D funding that comes into the agency. And our purpose is to help small businesses develop their technology from proof of concept through prototyping with the ultimate goal of commercialization and transition.
No, the fun part about me doing multiple of these is I can come at things from different angles. And I might start at the end where you just talked about with the ultimate goal of commercialization. Like, what is that? Like, to me, when I hear it, I'm like, I can go sell it in the commercial market or something. What does that mean from a DoD standpoint, or the way you just described it? What is commercialization?
So, commercialization and transition do mean two different things, but there's multiple different avenues. So, a lot of folks believe that it's just integrating that technology into a program of record. So, for example, developing a comms network that will automatically go into our C2BMC network. But it's not that, it's more than that. So, a technology, not only does it have the opportunity to transition into one of these programs within MDA, it also has the opportunity to go either into the commercial market if there's commercial applicability, or you can partner with a larger prime. And so a lot of the times, folks ask me, we talk a lot about the differences between Army, Navy, MDA, and one of the key differences of the commercialization and transition and how you see the different paths through the agencies really drives on basic versus applied research. And so with MDA, a lot of the research we do while we're looking for disruptive technologies is a very basic. We have a problem and we're coming to you to help us solve it. We don't tell you exactly how to do it. We are looking to you for our solutions. Whereas when you look at the larger organizations, much like the Army and Navy, they are applied research. They know exactly what they need. Their customers are on site. They deliver directly to the warfighters.
Mm.
And so a lot of their technologies transition right into the Army itself. MDA, as I mentioned, we're research development acquisition to where a lot of our technologies we develop for warfighter needs, but a lot of those transition into the prime market with the larger organizations, Lockheed, Boeing, Northrop, those big guys. And then they're fed back into the missile defense system. And so a lot of these examples, or the SM-3 missile had SBIR developed technology, the next generation interceptor had SBIR developed technologies. And so a lot of the things that we obtain come back through those larger partnerships that are created.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, and actually, it's kind of the first time here. I'm aware of it, but the first time I'm hearing you, somebody talk about it. This idea of when you go through the three basic phases of SBIR, that phase three, part of it could be coming in through those large prime contractors.
Mhm.
If we go into SBIR as small businesses, is that something like we can expect help with on the other side of phase one or phase two, that MDA would help us have the meetings, at least with the primes who might be interested in bringing that full circle the way you just described?
Yeah, so absolutely. I actually have a team. They are my phase three transition and commercialization team. And I also have two engineering SMEs on my program. And their full purpose and job is to work with these small businesses to get them in the room with the right folks. We are currently trying to be active in providing some resources, identifying who those personnel are, those points of contact at the larger organizations. So that way, when a small business, we identify that there may be overlap in the technology that we as MDA need and one of these larger primes are looking for to meet a DoD need, we can get them in the same room and help facilitate those discussions.
It's funny. I've been in government contracting a long time, since '98, so a long, long time. And the first time I even paid attention to SBIR was when Naval X launched up, and that wasn't that long ago. And one of the challenges I saw that they were trying to address was this. Sometimes, like if I just use myself, I'm talking to people downrange about a particular innovation. It's like, oh, hey, I wish we could have this or this
Mhm.
available to us, but making those connections between the money and the procurement side, the people with the need, and then and not just the people with the need, but then the leaders who then sit there and say, in this case, phase three.
Yeah.
And so I like how you've got this team, and I'd love to explore more about that. But let me go to the beginning part of just this innovation and ideas. From my perspective, there's things you want, and there's ideas I have that you may want,
Mhm.
and so I want to explore those just for a few minutes about how do we track on what you want, those topics or whatever that are coming out, and then maybe piggybacking that to, well, what if I have a really great idea? Like, how is MDA even in the position to be able to let me suggest it and perhaps, put it out there or fund it, et cetera?
So yes, so we've got a couple different avenues, but first I'll talk about the SBIR avenue because that's why we're here is to talk about the SBIR program. We are mandated to release one open topic every fiscal year. And so with an open topic, they're a lot more broad. It's very much out there of, hey, we have this need. Do you have the technology to help us solve that need? It's not very specific. It's a lot more open, more broad, as I mentioned. And so it gives the small business their abilities to propose their approach and their technical solution to meet whatever the need is. We do have very specific topics. I believe Gina talked about those as well that we do release. That with those ones, it's not as open, they're more specific driven, but it's still your technical approach to how you would solve that mission. The MDA Innovation Science and Technology program also has it's an open BAA. So it is not funded with SBIR money. However, this is a benefit for small businesses because it is open 365 days a year. It's out on sam.gov and you can go at any time and propose your white paper. You can propose your solution. We have a lot of commercial stuff that comes through there. A lot of non-traditionals utilize that approach, and it comes through, and it's a two-step process where the programs are looking for new innovative solutions, and you're bringing that to us for us to have the opportunity to say, "Wow, we've never thought of that." And so that's another approach that the agency has established for small businesses to be able to pitch their innovative technologies.
No, that's perfect. And I think so. If you guys aren't tracking, next to my name is a website, govconchamber.com/SBIR. And this is where you join a wait list. When we have all this week's videos done, we'll make the replays available, plus a lot of material, like Candace had given me a deck. And so I'll share that out on there. But Candace, I'm definitely going to put that open BAA because that's the type of thing that if I was listening to us talk, that's what I'm looking for is like, it's one thing to see your open or your topic and respond
Mhm.
to it, but it's so small compared to we have 1,000 different ideas probably on the call. I wanted to just do a quick poll just as we go along to help Candace understand who's here and what level of experience you have. So do me a favor in the chat, put 1, 2, 3, or 4 based on the following. What's your experience with SBIR, with SBIR? Number 1, put a 1 in the chat if you've won a SBIR award already. Put 2 in the chat if you've pursued a SBIR but did not win. And I was talking with somebody yesterday who hit that stage. 3, if you've heard of SBIR but really don't know much, and I think I kind of fit into that category. Or 4, I don't know what SBIR is, but I like the idea of money for innovation. So put 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the chat, and it just helps us kind of understand where you're at. While they're doing that, and not to put competition or competitive pressure on you with other agencies, but I happened to be talking to DARPA yesterday. And by the way, for the audience, Candace had mentioned like Gina or Jen earlier this week on Monday and Tuesday. We had already talked to other SBIR folks within the agency. We're going to do the same thing. So if you hear us say people's names, you can just find the replay, and somebody nice enough will put a link into the chat. But in DARPA, one of the things I heard, I'm just curious, is kind of I guess, a shorter question, is they have something called DARPA Connect that I thought was a pretty interesting thing to come forward. Does MDA have anything like that that's beyond the topics and the BAAs? Is there, like, how can we get in and talk about ideas maybe even before we respond?
So we do have an email that you can send your capability briefings to. And honestly, that's one of the best ways to kind of get in contact with us, not just going out to our outreach events, but the capabilities briefing, which I believe I sent you that email information yesterday. What we're asking for is you to send us an email with what your technology is, how you believe it can fit the missile defense mission set. It really comes down to understanding your customer. And so if you have been awarded before a SBIR, highlight that in your email. And what we do is those two engineering folks I mentioned earlier that help with the commercialization transition, they take those capability statements and capability briefings, and they get them into the hands of our technical folks. So these are the people that are in the program office working these technologies day in and day out and know what we're looking for and what they need. And so what we end up doing is we'll take those briefings, shoot them over to those technical experts and say, hey, we have a small business. This is their potential technology solution. Is this something that you would be interested in pursuing? And if they say yes, then absolutely, we can set up a meeting where the small business will have an opportunity to discuss with that technical person their technology. We do that for all of our small businesses. It's one of the best ways to get to meet with the MDA personnel and to get a little bit better understanding of what MDA is looking for in excuse me, I can't talk today, in that particular technology field. And
Yeah.
so that is one of the ways we do it. We also have where you can reach out to us at any time. We've got a general email if you have questions, comments, concerns. But that's what we're here for. We are here for every single one of you small businesses out there to get you engaged with the right folks, to get you in the room with them, to facilitate those meetings and make things happen. And a lot of the times, kind of like what you mentioned earlier, we sometimes we don't know the technologies that we need, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a great way to also pitch that technology. I mean, we've got a lot of folks that are in the commercial market that are trying to break out. We call those our non-traditionals, like I said earlier. That's the best way. Let's get it in front of the guys. Let's get them thinking, because a lot of the times too, when they're seeing that those technologies are out there, it's almost a form of market research. And when they are realizing that, hey, there's technology we haven't even tapped into that could solve this need, that spurs topic development, right? And so while you can't write a topic specific for a company, you can write it for a specific technology. And so we've had that happen a lot where a technology would come forward and they realize, this is great. We didn't know we had this out there. Candace, can we do a topic? This would be disruptive. This would be innovative. And it's like, absolutely, send it in. Let's see what happens. And then you have that opportunity now to go and propose to that effort. Another thing that MDA does, you're talking about getting folks in the room and topics. And the reason I mentioned putting in if you've won a SBIR award is because we also have the opportunity to do what we call as a reach back. It's a cross agency pool. And so that's another fantastic opportunity that a lot of small businesses aren't aware of. And so, for instance, let's just say that company X was awarded a first phase 2 with the Army. And the Army has decided not to continue pursuing investing in that technology, but MDA now is aware of that technology, and that technology can meet my need, right? So
Yeah.
I will then reach out to the Army PM and say, hey, PM, MDA is interested in this. Are you going to pursue it any further? If they say no, then guess what? I get to take that technology on. And now we can do a sequential phase 2, award additional funding, another 2-year period of performance to that small business to further invest in that technology development.
No, that's such a smart thing. I had a contract with the White House Communication Agency a while back, and I remember the commander bringing us, all these different contractors, in particular, coming in. There's like 100 people, and one of the things he was stressing is like, look, I know you're all smart people with good ideas, but how about we reuse the ideas that are already being used? So yes, bring me your ideas, but go see what the Army's doing that we can borrow from them, or what MDA is doing, or DARPA, whoever. It's like, go see all that innovation and bring it in. And I thought it was just such a simple, brilliant idea. It's like borrowing from the sister agencies.
Well, it is. It is. And if you think about it, if folks are familiar with the Department of Defense, there's a lot of overlap. And so that's something that since taking over the program, I've been really trying to push my folks to do is, hey, let's build those partnerships. Let's build those relationships. Let's leverage each other. If we have a technology that is applicable to the MDA mission, but also applicable to the Air Force, why are we not partnering on these? Why are we not reaping the benefit across the mission sets while still helping a small business to develop that technology to meet that end goal? And so we've been working really hard. I've had a lot of meetings with some of my fellow folks in the different agencies of saying, hey, where can we overlap? And you mentioned about communications with the primes earlier and like getting out there for commercialization. We're also meeting with those primes to try to identify those technologies they need. And so that way we're a little bit more mindful, we're more strategic in the topics we're pushing out and how we're executing while advancing the warfighter needs.
Yeah, no, I love it. One of the things that one of my favorite, not favorite, one of the questions I had written down was just generally, can I only get one SBIR award, and then, hey, you've got your lottery ticket, you don't get to come back? Can you do more? And I'm watching this guy, Mike, in the chat. we've won over 160 SBIRs. I'm like, Mike, I
Wow.
need to talk with you.
I
Told me
hope those are transitioning.
like, I'm assuming, I have a feeling that perhaps they're helping other people do it, but it doesn't matter to me. That is still really impressive. Mike, I'm going to come
It's
back.
very impressive. Congratulations. That is impressive. And hey, I don't know if everyone knows who Mike is, but definitely connect with him. Get some lessons learned. I always urge our small businesses to talk with each other about the lessons learned, pros and cons of seeking the SBIR funding. So share that wealth. I mean, you're not talking your technology, but if there's, there's
No, just even
differences.
the process, right? It's the
There
whole
are,
thing.
and there's
Don't have
so
to go
many
along.
differences too. Like, yes, we still follow similar process, the three phases, but if you go and you read the instructions for MDA versus Navy, there's differences in page count, font, different things. So pay attention to that because a lot of the times we see folks submit something and they don't meet those requirements. They're like, sorry guys, you got to meet our requirements as set forth in our instructions. So definitely that's a big lesson learned that I want to make sure folks are aware of.
Yeah, and well, and we're gonna do a whole bunch more later. I've got 9 minutes and a whole bunch of
Oh
questions I'm
gosh,
gonna throw
okay.
at you. Yeah, time
You
flies,
go
right?
so fast, yeah.
I do want to ask a poll question just really quick to the audience, just to help us again understand. Tell us about yourself, just based on what we were saying about non-traditional. Put 5, 6, or 7 into the chat. If 5, put 5 in the chat if you're an existing government contractor in SAM. Put 6 into the chat if you're not yet in SAM but you plan on being there, and put 7 into the chat when you're wondering who this SAM guy is or what is SAM. Right? Just put 5, 6, or 7. Whatever you put is perfect because it helps us. Let me take us to the money side, right? Because really, I like from this side, right? The government has their reasons for why they do things, and for us, a big portion of it is this ability to get funding out of the government to pursue innovative ideas, et cetera. What kind of budget or what kind of money do people look at? I don't really want to focus on phase 2 and 3 too much, but phase 1, even just coming in, if you'd start there, and then I know you have a pretty large budget. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so MDA, I know we're going to talk about DARPA. You met with them yesterday, but MDA and DARPA actually go in between fourth and fifth largest SBIR programs under the Department of Defense. On average, we have anywhere from 110 to 144 million dollars that is being executed by the programs. Um, your phase ones, we are typically doing about 180K. Previously, we were doing 150, but we are increasing that value due to the economy. We realize things are getting a little more expensive, and we want to make sure that the small businesses can do what they need to do in that first phase one. When you move into your first phase two, we are actually going to be going to the SBA threshold of 2.045 million. That is over a 2-year period of performance. MDA, we are recently doing a realignment and a shift. And so we are looking at developing more innovative, disruptive, game changing technologies to meet warfighter needs, more so in the near, not so much the near, but more mid to far term capability development. And so we believe that if we go with a higher dollar value, go out direct to phase two, we may obtain higher TRL levels as well. So trying to do a strategic mission there. For your phase three,
TRL.
the TR, do what? I'm sorry.
What is the TRL?
That's your technology readiness level.
Yeah,
I know
explain it.
I speak in acronyms. It's hard when you're in the government. Everything's an acronym. So I'm not an engineer. So I'm gonna do the, as my team calls, the Candace version of your technology readiness level.
Sure,
So there are multiple levels of TRL. Again, I'm not an engineer, so you guys don't judge me on this, okay?
sure.
And each level shows your development of your technology with the ultimate goal by the time you reach the end of your phase two to be a TRL 6 or 7, which has been your prototype and your development has all been tested in a relative environment for it to then transition. So you're looking higher TRL 6, 7 by the time you complete that phase two, that sequential phase two. So if you're talking direct to phase two, we haven't really established what we're looking for TR level wise there as we're shifting our focus. But it is something that we are strategically trying to do to meet
But
our
it's
need.
kind of just how far along are you and how
It
much
is. It is very much how far along. Yeah, it's are you just at a prototype phase? Have you had completed verification validation? Have you tested it in a real world environment? So it's just that it's your phase of technology development. Your phase one is just a proof of concept. It's like saying science tells me I can do it, and here's how I'm going to do it. Very low TRL. It's a white paper. I mean, we're talking one. And so as you're progressing through the program, we are providing that R&D funding to increase that technology level. So by the time that we complete the SBIR mission and you transition, you're now ready to be integrated into an actual system and start executing. And so that's the Cantonese version of
No, I like
TRL. I'm sure the
it.
engineers are over here like, oh my gosh.
Get somebody in chat while you do that. Somebody in chat is like, here's the full
Hey,
definition,
he
which is
Googled it.
hilarious.
So Will Googled it.
No, no, it's
But
fine. Let me move on because we
elementary,
only got 5 minutes. But I
yeah.
wanted to ask you, just as it relates to the type of companies that are coming in,
Mhm.
and we'll actually keep it with the phases for a second. And that phase one, I think I was looking at the deck that you had provided, right, where it talks about present concept.
Mhm.
What is that outcome of a phase one that the government's looking at? And give you perspective. I just started up an AI powered SaaS platform with my founders, and in 4 months we have production level stuff that's out.
Oh
What is
wow.
expected from MDA when you talk about phase one?
So it's really your concept. I mean, you're telling us what the technology is, why is it innovative? What is the need this is going to meet? Where would this potentially insert into the missile defense system? I mean, you're not developing a prototype or anything. It's very low. Like I said, 1 to 2 TRL. There's no full development of that technology. And so, as you're progressing, it moves out from that very lower phase of how you believe science says we can do something to meet that need to now if you prove it, you succeed, all your deliverables come in, you've stated yes, okay, that this can go forward, we got a great idea for this for transition, your commercialization somewhat there. That's when you really start moving into going in and developing. You're talking production, but production, that's procurement funded with the government, and so we don't have procurement money in SBIR. But that's more moving into like I forget what the acronym stands for, but there's the AppFit program that we do provide some of our SBIRs to that have succeeded and are ready for production. That we'll push those ideas forward, but that's much later in the game. That's not your phase one proof of concept.
No, and that's huge because it's important for people to understand, and just reminding them of something you said earlier. Sometimes even if you've got a fairly good idea in your mind or something, even coming in with an email that goes down that path of perhaps talking to the program managers and having discussions around that.
Mhm.
I think the last question I just wanted to touch on just relates to when we're innovative and entrepreneurs and we've got these ideas we're pretty protective of a couple of things. One is our equity, right? Giving away equity constantly for money.
Mhm.
And the other is our intellectual property or
Yep.
data rights or whatever you want. Can you touch on how the government, actually, I just remembered a really good question I wanted to ask you, but
Uh-oh.
can you touch on that?
Okay.
Uh, you know, and just let people know, like, do you come in and take 50% of my company or,
Yep.
I'm kind
So
of
the
loading that up, but yeah, tell us.
No, so one of the benefits of having SBIR as part of your company strategy is that this is non-dilutive capital. And what that means is that the control and ownership of the intellectual property remains with the small business. We do not maintain that. And so from the start of your first SBIR contract, that intellectual property and data rights are protected for the 20-year span. We do not take it. You have full data rights to it. You can take it, you can commercialize it, you can go out, you can tell other businesses about it, market your technology, but we do not own it at all. The only thing that we kind of hold tight is when you're actually integrated into our system and it has true test data that's related to the missile defense system itself. That information is ours. That's government inherited data rights. But outside of that, your technology, that's yours. We are, like you said, an angel investor. We're non-dilutive capital. It's a major benefit for small businesses because you get to keep it. I mean,
Oh, it's huge.
who doesn't want to keep their brainchild, right? So
I
I
can
think it's
pick
a
up VC
fantastic win.
funding in addition
Yeah.
to like there's no restriction to that. So
Yep.
my question that I was going to ask you, we're just going right up against the
Okay.
end of the hour here or the end of the half hour. But the question I like asking is around uh, from a soft level, right? We entrepreneurs, it's the funding that attracts us to the mix. I think the access also is very, very attractive, but the funding, non-dilutive funding, that's attractive. But what's in it for Missile Defense Agency, for MDA, right? Why are they doing this compared to just doing the innovation in-house or something like that?
Well, there's a benefit to this, right? So when you are looking at already established programs and technologies across the missile defense system, and they're working to further develop that system to stay ahead of the threat. A lot of the times they have already identified their mission set, things that they need to invest in to keep the current systems running, right? They don't have additional extramural R&D to invest in disruptive, mind blowing technology, that the cool stuff that we're not doing already. And so that's really where the SBIR program comes in. A lot of folks think that SBIR falls under the small business office, and we don't. We are two very different, I would say, resources for small business. We are under OUSD R&E. And so the SBIR program gives MDA the leverage to go out and try to seek those new approaches to not just do an incremental development to the current systems, but do leaps and bounds. Like, we are looking to take something and develop it that's going to take our systems into the future, not just the tomorrow. And so that's really what MDA is getting out of the SBIR program, is having that ability to seek those new technologies, whereas the programs are focused on the current warfighter needs, the things that are right in front of them, the threats we're facing today, and looking into the tomorrow. But that's where SBIR's used as that tool for the tomorrows, right? The down the years, looking down the scope of where can we go? What can we do to stay ahead of the adversaries? And so that's really what SBIR brings to MDA, whether it's directly, transition into a program of record or going through an a prime. It's another acronym. I know we talk acronyms.
No, I'm with you.
Everyone talks acronyms in the government. We know what it means, but yeah, so through the other primes, where then it circles back. We work very closely with the industry, with our OJA partners, and so ultimately that's really the benefit. Is we have that money there to invest in those new developments.
Yeah, big reason I asked that question, especially for anybody who might be newer to hearing this conversation, is that when you think about the funding that is part of SBIR, that's seed funding, if you will, but it's way different than a VC. A VC is looking to make 10 or 100x on the money. The government does not want the money back. They want the innovation side, and they want what you just described, which is perfect. So we're wrapped up. I'm going to ask you just in a minute what's the last thing you would like us to remember from today. But before I do, I just want to let everybody know, if you look below on Candace's, right next to Candace's name, I put in the mda.mil/business/SBIR. And so maybe somebody can grab that and drop it in chat. But go there. It's a great stepping off point. There's a newsletter they have out there that looks like it just recently got started, which I love. It looks like they're building out this website, which is awesome. So go check that one out. And then the other is, if you're interested in a broader DoD, maybe even expanding into the other agencies, SBIR Day, I was talking with DoD about it. Just go join our wait list on GovConChamber/SBIR. If enough of us are joining, then I just go right back to Candace and Gina at DoD and others and say, hey, they want a whole day. Candace just gave you like, hey, do you want a taste of the candy before you buy a box of the candy? The SBIR Day would be a box of the candy around SBIR. So Candace, first off, thank you very much for participating on behalf of everybody. It's just so fast and such good information. But if you had one thing for us to just walk away with, what would you want us to walk away with?
That we're here for you. The whole purpose of our program is to help our small businesses develop their technologies. Utilize us, reach out to us. We are always here to help you, to lend a hand, to talk to you, and just really help explain the process. I meet with a lot of small businesses. I will be the first to tell you, before I took over this role, I could not spell SBIR. And so as you're starting to look to get into the market and start developing your technologies, do not fear reaching out. We are here. We're happy to help and answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, it turns out Candace is a real person who buys groceries. And
I do, and builds Legos.
Legos. I forgot to point that out. But yeah. Hey, I really appreciate it. I'm going to put you backstage so I can talk with you in a minute and just close out message. But thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It was my pleasure to speak with you.
Perfect. And then just for everybody, I just want to give you a quick reminder that, the replay is available immediately if you want that. If you have questions in the chat we didn't get to, I'll follow up with Candace and ask for answers and get them back to you. Tomorrow, we're talking with the Air Force on cyber side there. They do $1 billion in cyber spend a year. Not that it's a competition, Candace, who can still hear me. And then the Army is Friday. So make sure you register for those so that LinkedIn can let you know about it, but also everybody else. As you go through your day, just remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training.